If your company sells services with a sales team, chances are a big chunk of their time is going towards work that has nothing to do with actually closing deals. Stuff like researching accounts, finding contacts, and writing outreach. Today, we're going to show you how to automate all of that end-to-end with Claude, with absolutely no code. This workflow can be scheduled to run on repeat. So while your team is out having conversations and closing, Claude is already building the next pipeline in the background. We're talking hours of manual work replaced by a single automated process. Here's exactly what we're setting up today. We feed Claude a list of target companies. It finds the right contacts through Apollo or Clay and enriches them, writes personalized outreach for each one, and pushes everything directly into Lemlist as a live campaign. And even if you don't have an initial target companies, Claude can actually do that for you. And of course, throughout the whole process, your CRM such as Salesforce and HubSpot is staying up to date throughout. So it's going to find, enrich, write, and send, all of that handled automatically by Claude. I'll do a quick walkthrough of all the tools we need, like Apollo or Clay and Lemlist, and why we need them. But if you're already familiar, you can skip ahead to the part where we connect them. And as always, I'll walk you through this step by step in simple and easy to understand format, with absolutely no technical background needed. And if you find videos like these useful, please hit that like and subscribe button. It does help a lot. Now let's dive right in. So here's what the workflow looks like. So everything, of course, starts with Claude, and in this case, Claude Cowork, because if you want to schedule it, that's the only option that you have with Claude. Claude Cowork, of course, comes with the Pro plan, so you do actually need to be subscribed to the Claude Pro plan to be able to schedule it. However, everything else in this workflow can be done and can be connected with your Claude free plan, which I'll show a little bit later. The Cowork element comes in handy when you're trying to execute a more complex workflow, as well as if you want to schedule it on, let's say, a daily or weekly basis. Now with Claude, you can actually feed it a list of target accounts if you already have those contacts. And if you don't, if you want Claude to go out there and research and find out what the target account should be for your services or business, that can actually be part of the workflow as well. You just need to tell it to do that as the first step. So when Claude has the target accounts, these are presumably a list of companies that you want to target. It can then use Apollo to actually find out who are the decision makers that are relevant for your product or services. And if you're not familiar with Apollo, Apollo is a sales intelligence platform. So basically it enriches the data. So you give it a list of companies, you can find who's working in that company, at what role, which manager, which leaders. And of course, beyond that, being able to give you the email addresses, the phone numbers, the contact details of these guys, of course, work contact details, right? So for example, if you're selling HR product, you might want to target HR directors and talent leaders. And if you're selling technical products, well, then you might want to target the engineering leaders as well as the IT leaders. And so Claude will be able to do that through Apollo, finding out who are the leaders in those companies, filter them out by job roles, seniority, or any other filters that you want. And of course, the most important bit, enrich the contacts with their verified emails as well as phone numbers in case you want to run cold dials. And of course, a lot of people use Clay as well in the second step. So that works the same way. If you connect it with Clay, it can actually run and enrich those contacts similarly with Apollo. And if you're not familiar with Clay, Clay is a go-to-market data platform that helps teams find, enrich, and automate lead workflows, where then you can actually personalize messages to each contact. And that is extremely powerful because you can actually plug in a lot of customization, including getting AI to work on specific targets, specific accounts, specific personas. So Clay is very powerful in that manner. It's not very easy to use if you're just starting out with it. There is a bit of a learning curve, but once you get a hang of it, it's actually super useful. However, if you already have your messaging, playbook, and brand pretty effectively defined, then perhaps you don't need the hyper-personalization. Personally, I think the hyper-personalization can also backfire because sometimes LLMs still hallucinate and stuff like that, so it can mess up, be goofy sometimes. So if you don't need that, then you might want to skip the step just to reduce the complexities, because as with every workflows, the less complex it is, the easier it is to maintain. And of course, after all of that, that's going to be pushed into Lemlist. And why do we need Lemlist? Well, if you're running outbound campaigns to 20 people or 30 people, that doesn't apply. You can use just a single email to send it out. But if you're outbounding to 1,000, 2,000 contacts, well, then you got to think about the infrastructure layer, right? You got to think about how many inboxes you need to send these things. Because if you send 1,000 cold emails per day from one inbox, that inbox is definitely going to be flagged. And it's going to go into a spam inbox list. And that's why a lot of the effectiveness of an outreach depends on deliverability. So making sure that your inbox is healthy, making sure that your domain authority is strong. And Lemlist takes care of that for you because you can actually set up, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 inboxes on Lemlist, and it will auto-rotate for you if you're outbounding at scale. And of course, Lemlist also allow you to have the capability to do multi-channel outreach with LinkedIn, and now they also included calls. So it's just a nice centralized multi-channel outreach tool that, in my opinion, is very reliable and most importantly, easy to use. So those are the reasons why you need these tools. Apollo and Clay is really for enrichment. Lemlist is the outreach orchestration and coordination infrastructure. And then your CRM, of course, can be plugged into Claude as well. If you're using HubSpot and Salesforce, there's an off-the-shelf integration that you can do with Claude as well, so that all these information pushes back into your CRM. So the very first thing you want to do is to download your Claude desktop. And if you don't already have a Claude desktop, I highly recommend that you do so. I'll leave the link to download Claude desktop down in the description below. You can just go over there and download it based on your system. And one little thing to note is that it is recommended that you log in into your Claude instance with the same email address that you're using to access all the other tools, because the authentication is going to happen on your Google browser. So having the same email address logged in makes it a lot easier and avoids the kind of issues that you see when Claude detects that you're actually using a different type of email address and stuff like that. And once you're logged in, you realize that I'm already on a pro plan. And the reason why I'm on a pro plan, because I want to be using the Claude Cowork to schedule these tasks. But essentially, any connection that I'm making today, if you're just running it once and you want to manually run it, technically you do not need Claude Cowork, and hence you can be on the free plan. However, depending on the credit usage, you might hit that limit pretty soon if you're on the free plan as well. So I would highly recommend subscribing to the pro plan, which is $20 a month, which just makes your life a lot easier. Okay, so once you're on your Claude desktop, what you want to do is hit the plus sign over here, and under connectors, you'll see that I already have a couple of connectors installed. So these are connectors that I've done in my previous video. So if you want to check it out, I'll link it up here and down in the description below as well. But in this case, what you want to do is to go over to manage connectors. And what you want to do is hit the plus sign at the top here, and then go to browse connectors. And here you can connect your first tools. Now, Apollo is an off-the-shelf connection, which you can just connect. So hit the plus sign button here, and then it will connect or open up pop-up or a browser session where you need to log in. And here I'm just going to log in with Google, and it's asking whether it's okay for Apollo to connect to Claude. So I'm going to authorize that, and then I'm going to hit open Claude. And there we go. It's as easy as that. Now I can see that under my connectors list, I have Apollo.io as part of the active connectors. All right, so now I've connected Apollo. I'm also going to then connect my CRM, in this case, which is HubSpot. So I'm going to type in HubSpot, and here you go. It's again off the shelf, and I'm going to hit connect. And it's going to open up a page to HubSpot, and I'm going to choose the right account, and I'm going to connect it to HubSpot. And now it's asking me whether it could have all of these information. So I'm going to just checklist yes for everything. Okay, I'm going to select all. Okay, I'm going to connect app. All right. So this is a demo account on HubSpot, so it doesn't really have a lot of information in there, but I just want to show you guys how you can easily connect it to Claude. Okay, and there you go. As you can see, HubSpot is now one of the connectors that is connected. And if you guys are using Salesforce or any other CRMs, you can do so accordingly. And so similarly with Clay, you can go over to Browse Connectors, find out where Clay is, and it's going to spin up the page for you to connect to Clay. Okay, so now I have my Apollo, Clay, and HubSpot connected. What I want to do next is to connect it to my last tool, which is Lemlist. And here, if you were to search, Browse Connectors, and you type in Lemlist, it doesn't actually show up. Right, so there is no Lemlist connectors right off the shelf. So what you want to do is head over to the official documentation of Lemlist. So if you were to go to developer.lemlist.com/mcp/setup, and I'm going to link the URL down in the description below so it's easy for you guys to access, you'll see that there's an easy way to connect it to your Claude desktop. And basically what you need is really the MCP URL right here. So you just want to copy that and go back to your Claude desktop. And what you do here is hit that plus sign button again, but this time we're going to select the Add Custom Connector. And here we're going to just name this Lemlist. And for the remote MCP server URL, we can use the same URL that we just copied and pasted over here, and then hit add. So once you successfully add a Lemlist and the custom connector, what happens is it's going to show up here and it's going to say custom, but it's going to show also not connected just yet. So we're going to hit connect here, and it's going to ask you to authorize the connection. So we're just going to hit authorize and open Claude. And there we go, that's connected with the word custom next to it, right? So the next step is for us to actually go into the skills file and make sure we're uploading the right skills file. And so I've created 3 skills files here. So actually I have the Clay skills file, the Apollo B2B prospecting skills file, and as well as a B2B sales coaching skills file. And I'll share the skills files in the description down below as well. So you guys, if you want, can download it. So for those of you who are not familiar with skills, you can think of it like a recipe book. So I'm giving Claude a recipe book for Clay, and also I'm giving it a recipe book for Apollo. So the recipe book will dictate when it's going to activate that particular skill. So for example, if you want Apollo to be activated whenever we require it to enrich any data, any client data and stuff like that, it will do so. Similarly with Clay, or if we straight up tell it, use Apollo to do this, is going to be able to just go into the skills file, which is the recipe book. And in the recipe book, there's a very structured instruction as to what is the best practice of using this particular tool. So immediately it's going to know what is the most effective way to use Apollo, what is the most effective way to use Clay, because it's getting context through the skills files. Right? You can build it yourself, of course, but again, I'll share this down in the description below if you guys want an easy way to start with it. And of course, you can iterate, you can always change the skills file, ask it to improve it, etc. And once you have the skills file, this is a markdown file, which is in layman terms just a text file. And the easy way for Claude to ingest these information is just to go over to the plus sign over here under skills. And here you can actually upload a skill. And so you can see it's just an easy drag and drop that you can put on here. Okay, so once you've connected Claude to the relevant tools as well as added the relevant skills file, where you want to go is go over to the Cowork tab over here in Claude. And this is where you're going to tell it step by step what you want it to do in terms of the workflow. So in this case, I'm asking it, I'd like to create this workflow, fetch a set of company targets for automated with Mark. So I'm giving it the website name. And then the second step is find 5 most relevant contacts in each of these accounts. So what I want is a set of 5 companies. Okay. I'll say 5 company targets and 5 most relevant contacts. So which means I have 25 contacts at the end of this for me to outreach to. So I want to add a bit more focus here, which is, I'm only looking at SMB tech services companies in the US who are looking to automate, let's say, their workflows and stuff like that. And then, enrich the contacts with Apollo, with email addresses, LinkedIn URLs, plus phone numbers, create a Lemlist campaign targeted to add these personas with the most impactful messaging that can start a conversation. The campaign should be 5 touch points, which is 4 emails and 1 LinkedIn connection, and push the list of contacts. Should be 25 or less, right? So I'm gonna hit let's go here, and we'll see what it does. So here it's come up with the steps that it's gonna go through, right? It's gonna first research the company, which is, the brand, the services that we're selling, and then find 5 SMB tech services for the target companies, find 5 contacts, enrich, and then send it over to Lemlist. And as it's going through that, it's asking clarification questions, which I appreciate, which is, which personas should we target in the SMB tech services companies? So I'm gonna say, yes, proceed with the enrichment, because it's just checking if I'm okay with it spending credits on my Apollo account. So the first time you're running the workflow, it's going to constantly ask you to allow some of these permissions, some of the activities that it's doing with your third-party tools. So it's going through the steps and it's identified the 5 companies, which are companies that I've never heard of, but these are tech companies, and it tells you kind of the reasoning behind why it's picking these companies, right? Again, these are only 5. I want to keep it small so that it doesn't take too long. But of course, you can run this for 100 companies and a lot more data enrichment required. It does take Apollo credits in order to enrich them. So, just want to be careful in terms of throttling, making sure that it makes sense in terms of CAC as you run through the outbound motion. So I do recommend starting off with maybe a smaller pool, trying it out, see if the automation all works without a glitch before kind of scaling it up, because it's very easy to scale it up. Once you do, you can go into Lemlist, provision a couple more inboxes, and you're actually good to go, right? And the only thing that scales with it is really just the token usage, as well as the subscription plan if it hits any credit limits and stuff like that. So here it is, it's done. Over the course of the process, I did have to hit allow a couple times. So that's going to keep popping up. Just make sure you just click on always allow so that it can go over and do its things. So as you can see here, it actually changed some of the target companies from what it told me earlier. The reason for that is because it couldn't find the relevant contacts in those companies. So because I only asked for 5, it was random companies. So it actually just automatically changed those 5 companies into something else that is also within the ICPs that I'm looking for. So once it's found the 5 companies with relevant contacts, it's actually using Apollo to enrich them and pushed all those into Lemlist. And it's also created the email campaign, which is a 5 touchpoint sequence, 14 days in total, even though I didn't tell it, how long, etc. And of course, if you guys already have some playbook that is super effective, you can always give that as a context to Cowork, even build a skill around that. Right. So let's go over to Lemlist and see what the campaigns look like on Lemlist. So here on Lemlist, you see that this is the only campaign because, again, this is a dummy account that I've created, so there isn't a lot of data over here. But this is the one campaign that is created. And then let's take a look at what that looks like. So the first email is, hi, first day I was looking at your company and had a quick question. How many hours a week does your team spend on manual work that could honestly run itself? Things like ticket routing, client onboarding step, For most IT companies at your scale, somewhere between 8 to 15 hours per person. I help founders and ops leaders at companies like yours eliminate that overhead. All right. So yeah, actually, this is pretty cool to see. For example, if I have a Calendly link of sort that, I want to send over, I can actually paste it here so they can book a time with me. And of course, the second email follow-up, didn't hear back, etc. looking pretty all right. Again, I did not give it, any style, any brand guideline for it to follow. It kind of just does this whole thing on its own. Of course, LinkedIn invitation here, and it's all showing red currently because I have not connected any email provider. So if you're new to Lemlist, what you need to do is obviously connect your email provider first. It's all very easy. You can connect it right on the browser here, connect to your Gmail, and then you can also spin up your own inboxes, right? And if it's a high volume outbound motion with a lot of emails, it will actually auto rotate the email inboxes so that it keeps to best practice, make sure that the inbox doesn't get spam filtered and stuff like that. And of course, Lemlist itself is a whole ecosystem. It has Lemwarm as well, so you need to warm up your inboxes. I'm not going to get into the weeds of those things today, but just to let you know that this is a very powerful infrastructure orchestration tool, which I think is super crucial, especially with early stage or mid stage startups or businesses who are trying to scale their outbounds, right? So once you connect your email provider, connect your LinkedIn connections here, this can actually go out, and this is the entire campaign. And of course, let's look at the lead list here. And I'm going to have to blur some of these out because these are actual contacts of the people in those companies and I can't reveal them. But essentially, you have the emails, you have the phone number, you have the LinkedIn URLs, all that you need to actually let Lemlist reach out to them automatically, right, on a campaign. And once you hit launch on this thing, you can actually look at reports of the campaign to see how many people opened it, how many people read it, how many responded. Of course, all of this, the reporting side, can also be automated as part of Claude Cowork's tasks, daily tasks or weekly tasks, to give you an update. If you run 5 or 10 campaigns, it could give you an update on which campaigns are doing well and which campaigns are not and why and all that sort of stuff. It can go into the analysis. So the potential here with Claude Cowork and the sales motion in any companies are kind of endless right now, right? And last but not least, if you want this on repeat and on schedule, what you need to do is simply tell Claude that you want the schedule, right? So for example, you can say, can you schedule this task for every Monday at 9 a.m. Let's do that. And it's going to ask you for an approval to schedule the task. So you're going to hit schedule here, and there you go. The workflow has been scheduled for every Monday at 9 a.m. It's even telling you when the next run is going to happen. And then if you want to see how many scheduled tasks that you have, so here I have 3 scheduled tasks. 2 of them have been paused, and the SMB Tech Outreach Weekly is now active every Monday. And I don't know why it says 9:05 a.m. I guess it takes 5 minutes for it to complete the task. And if you just want to pause that, what you can do is just toggle it off and it'll stop putting that on recurring. So what do I think about the future of sales? Well, people will always want to buy from people. So as long as that's true, you're going to always need a human sales reps. But what we can take away is all the technical heavy load that all the sales reps frankly hate to do, right? You want your sales rep to be focusing on one thing only, which is talking to prospects and closing deals. So everything else should be able to be automated away, including reporting, including the campaign itself, including the first outreach, getting the meetings to your sales reps. And I'm only touching on a very specific workflow here. And if you guys are interested to find out a little bit more about how the AI automations today can be implemented in sales and marketing process to the most optimum level, let me know down in the comments below and I'll make a few more videos on what are the tools that I'm personally using on my stack that perhaps would be beneficial for you guys. Cool, so that's an easy way to build a workflow on Claude Cowork. If you find videos like these useful, please let me know in the comments down below and consider subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one.